Everything we do here at James Project focuses on caring for vulnerable women and children because we believe that's the call that God has placed on every one of us as Christians.
We are back with another James Project podcast, and today we have Carlos Orellana. I just asked how to pronounce it, and I can't even do it. So how about you tell us your last name?
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. My name is Carlos Manuel Orellana. It's a last name coming from Spain, actually.
Oh, wow.
So yes, that's how I pronounce my name. My last name. Nice to meet you. It's very a great honor for me being here with you. And thank you very much for taking the time to talk about James Project.
Yes, thank you for taking the time and for all you do, because you're the president of the board for the James Project of Latin America, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I was elected almost 5 years ago to be the president of the board, and also and according to Guatemalan laws, you are not only the president of the board, but at the same time the legal representative of the organization in front of all the Guatemalan authorities.
It's a big responsibility.
I am about to give my position to someone else, another member of the board, in this coming August. And it has been a wonderful experience, learning and serving, and obviously know deeply the functioning and working with kids and all the people that work in Monjas.
Yes. All right. We're going to get to the rest of that too, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your upbringing, what you do other than.
Great. Awesome. Well, I live in Guatemala City. I was born here in 1969. I'm married for more than 30 years. My wife, Ruth, and I will get to 31 years of marriage. We have 3 adult young children. The first one is Hannah, then is Samuel, and finally is Marianne. She is the youngest. We live in southern Guatemala City, and I work in a printing company. Our main business is to print books, obviously in Spanish, books, booklets, magazines, and other Christian materials. We mainly print Christian materials, although I have customers of, different kind of companies or organizations, and I work with 2 of my brothers also, or the 3 of us work. And as you say in the States, it's a family-owned and operated business here in the city. The business was started by my parents in the 1970s. My father passed away a couple of years ago already. My mom's still there, but I have been working in this business of ours since 1986. I was just graduated from high school when I began to work with my parents, and because I am the oldest son, I have some responsibilities, obviously, with my parents, with the business, with my brothers, and I have been here. Currently, I am the manager and also the legal representative for our business here in Guatemala. Also, I am a member of Verbo Church here in Guatemala. It is a ministry, a family of churches that was founded in 1976 by a group of American missionaries that came from California. In 1976, there was a major earthquake here in Guatemala, and they came to help to build houses for poor people. So eventually they stay here, they began a church, and next year they are going to, or we are going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of our ministry. So in my local church, I am a leader, I am an elder, I'm a member of the board of pastors of my local church. And we will talk later about what why I'm mentioning that. And also, I have known James Project not from the very beginning, but almost from the beginning. I have been involved with James Project Guatemala since about 20 years. Honestly, neither Mama Carol nor Joanne, I think, no, even myself, we do not remember when I began to be involved. I was invited actually for a meeting in that time, but easily I have been there for about 20 years. So that's it. As you can hear and watch me, I can speak in English. And as I have told you previously, I always bless my father because or my dad, because he insisted on me or forced me when I was a teenager to learn proper American English. So I studied for 3 years here in Guatemala in a specialized school, and here we are. So there are many other things, but in general terms, that's what I do and who I am.
And your English has opened a lot of doors for you over the years.
Yes,
That's why you thank him, right? Yeah.
yes, I thank you, because as a teenager, all of us, when we are teenagers, we are kind of rebellious or tend to swim against the current. I don't know if that's the way you say it
Yeah.
in English, but and to be honest, sometimes obviously we are lazy as well, and so learn another language is kind of you have to make an effort to learn it, and it has opened for me, and for my two other brothers also are bilingual. Obviously, my father has had to do a lot of it from about it, because he was a businessman, so he knew he didn't. The curious part is that he didn't speak English at all. So, but he learned early in his life that in order to have an easier life, you have to learn English. He wanted me to learn eventually German, but that's a total different story. That's another level of language. So for now, I am more than enough with English.
Yes. Yeah. Well, your English is great. So
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate that because my Spanish is not.
No problem.
So tell us about how you became a Christian, a little bit about that.
Okay, I I am from a Catholic family. Still, uh, parts of the family of my mother is still Catholic, and parts of the family of my father are still Catholic. I I ha- I was born into a, let's say, regular Latin America Catholic home. We were not very religious, although we attend mass or other events from time to time. And I celebrated um, my first communion. I think that's the term in English. But and I studied in Catholic schools here, private Catholic schools here in Guatemala City. And in 1979, there was a tragedy in our family. A brother of my mother died in a car accident. He was very young. I think he was 19 years old when he died. He because he was not doing what he must be doing at that time. He was there was a situation, and he died with another young guy from another family in this car accident. So personally, obviously, it affected all of us. I mean, the siblings of my mother, even my father, he cried when I still remember when we were driving, because this uncle died in another city here in Guatemala. So we had to drive 3 hours by car in order to get there and attend the funeral. And I still remember my father crying while he was driving, because he was going to miss my uncle. He was relatively close to my father.
Mhm.
At some point in our life as a family, this uncle came to live in our home here in Guatemala City because some health issues of his. So I was a pre-teenager at that time, and I was really concerned about the afterlife, what happens with the soul of a person, what happens when in eternity, in other words. And I heard about hell, I heard about heaven, I heard about the Bible, I heard about God, Jesus, but it was kind of a faraway concept
Mhm.
from me. I before I continue, I want to apologize. It's at some point I say something on improper English, but hopefully you will understand. So um, at that time, while we were still sad with the loss of my uncle, I want to mention that my father or my parents began a company that produced vinyl records, those 12-inch black discs.
Mhm.
We were one of the few companies at that time that produced these kind of records here in Guatemala. And at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, my parents were servicing or attending the needs of a Christian bookstore here in Guatemala. They they still exist, and they are a part of a major Christian movement here in Guatemala. So at that time, they needed vinyl records to be made for their Christian artists at that time. So they need, I mean, Christian music, in other words. So as you may imagine, as you can imagine, while we were producing those records, every some from time to time, every 50 copies, 100 copies, 200 copies, you have to verify the quality of the record. And the only way to do it is to play the record into the proper device.
Mhm.
So, and you need to hear, I mean,
Right.
over and over in order to avoid the crackling sound. And because of the industrial process, there is the possibility of a small particle of dust
Mhm.
coming into the mold, coming into the master, and damage it.
Mhm.
So why I mention this? Because let's talk about a certain title of a certain Christian artist. They were singing Christian songs, and let's say we will verify it every 100 copies. Let's suppose
Okay.
that. So that will mean that all the people, or the people in the factory, in the plant,
Mhm.
they were hearing at least 10 times the same songs over and over again.
Mm.
The same message, you will hear it over and over again. And then the next day, you will change the originals, the things that I'm trying to translate the name of the thing. I know in Spanish, but in English will be the matrix, or the thing that the thing that will make the actual, for each record you will need a set to stamper. That's the term in English, the stamper. Now it's a word I haven't used in 30 plus years.
Right.
So the stamper, and next day there will be another record from another Christian artist with different Christian songs. And as you know, all Christian songs are centered in Jesus, gospel, and the message of salvation. God is good, God is love, etc., etc., and so on. So you keep hearing that, and eventually that message permeated. I think that's the proper term. Permeated into our hearts. Mainly my mother. So at some point, my mother was invited by a friend to a church, to a Christian church, and I still remember that with a little bit of shame for myself, because I made a tantrum. I don't want, because I was a Catholic boy, a good Catholic boy, So I have heard also about these crazy evangelicals, these crazy Christian meetings that they shouted, that they sing out loud, etc., etc. So I said, I cannot be there. It's not it's not a good idea, I told my mom. So she fortunately she doesn't remember that episode in my life. But I to be honest, I have to mention it in order to be free. But the thing is, eventually we went to this church, to this meeting on a Sunday, and it was totally not what I imagined at that time. It was very common. At that time, this church met into a 4 or 5 hotel here in Guatemala City. So the chairs were very comfortable, AC, good illumination, and good music. So I was like, wow, I was not expecting this. So eventually they obviously preach about the Bible. One thing that I have that I mentioned to when I give my testimony is that a good evangelical Christian church will encourage its members to read the Bible. So I remember the pastor of this church telling over and over again, read your Bible, read your Bible, read your Bible. And I did it a little bit, even though my laziness, even though my comfort, from time to time, I felt like reading. And when I began to read the Gospels and the letters of Paul and the Sermon of the Mountain,
Sermon on the Mount.
It was like a shock for me. I mean, I still remember thinking, how is it possible that Jesus asks to live by these rules, to live this standard so high? I mean, pray for my enemies. Give me a break. I mean, how is that even possible?
Right.
Forgive the one who has offended me. I was right and he was wrong. How is it possible that God asks me to forgive this person? So and someday I found myself, after 2 or 3 years of attending church very faithfully every week, going to the youth group, going to a home group, reading the Bible. Eventually, I discovered myself, oops, I have not come to the front on a Sunday to accept Jesus publicly and repent for my sins. Even though I have prayed many times, even though at some times as a teenager, I was able to cross the barrier of lifting up my hands while singing on a Sunday morning. You know what I mean in that sense. So I felt guilty. I felt ashamed of myself. So I was too embarrassed to do it in any given Sunday at my church. So officially I accepted Jesus in front of my TV set by myself at my home. On after I watch a tele evangelizer
Mhm.
meeting. He was in a stadium with a bunch of people, and he was preaching. And he made a call at the end of the message, and I said, "Well, this is it. You God, here I am, and let's do it, and let's do this." So I get baptized again because I was baptized when I was a baby in a Catholic church, but I was officially baptized when I was 15 years old as a teenager. So that's how I become. And later on, I want to add this because probably there is someone watching this, and maybe we will connect. When I was about 17 years old, I attend our youth group retreat.
Mhm.
It was probably November, October, November, maybe the beginning of December here in Guatemala. And in that time of the year, it's usually most of the retreats for young people because there is no school. Officially, it's vacation time from school and universities. So many churches take advantage of that and invite their members to go and have a retreat on a weekend. So I remember being there in the fireplace, around the fireplace in that Saturday evening probably, and I still remember that we have a full moon in the sky in the evening.
Mhm.
It was a precious night because it is at the end of the year. Usually there is wind from the north of Guatemala. So it was probably a clear night with full moon, the fire there in the fireplace, and I had a good time with God. So I said, God, please take my life and do whatever you want with it.
Mm.
And I really mean it. I mean, I was very honest on my part. But then I add this part. I have repented so many times of saying those words because God took me seriously and He had made with my life things that I didn't want to do at all. So if you want to commit yourself to the service of the Lord, be aware of the words you are going to promise.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yes, be very careful because I mean it's a funny joke that I make because obviously when we are in some processes in our lives, you don't want to be there, but at the end you know that you must endure and be there and go through the process, and eventually you can see that it was for the good and that it was for your if you want to call it like that, personal improvement.
Right, your growth.
So those processes make you know better God and Jesus, and that He's a faithful God and that He is able to keep His promises. So I make this joke because certainly I am not alone in that category of saying, God, make me your servant, make whatever you want of my life, and then saying, oops, that
But I
was
didn't mean,
not a good idea. Sorry?
but I didn't mean to do it this way.
Yes, but this is so hard, Father. This is so difficult. But
Yeah.
God has been faithful all these years. I am 56 now years old, and I can tell you with total assurance and certainty, God is faithful always. Although the night will be dark, although the wind is so strong, although the earth shakens, God
Mhm.
is faithful.
Yes, he
Always.
is. Mhm. And as you're talking about those hard things that you don't want to go through, it reminds me of that verse in James where he talks about count it pure joy when you face trials and tribulations of all kinds. I don't like to count it pure joy. But he goes on, yeah.
Imagine being a Guatemalan teenager many years ago and reading that kind of verses for the first time, and you
Mhm.
say, "What? Are
I
you
know.
nuts? You cannot have joy while enduring trials." But
Mhm.
that's real Christian life.
It is. And he goes on to explain that it develops steadfast endurance and patience, and we will have everything we need when we go through it. We can't avoid those things because that they are the things that help us grow. We'd love to think that we could grow when everything's smooth sailing and comfortable, but that's not when we grow.
Yes,
Unfortunately.
human character needs the oven, the
Mhm.
fire of God.
Refining fire. Yes.
So
Hmm.
we well, another thing that I do is to preach. As an elder of a church, I preach, and I say to people, because I although obvious, it's an obvious truth. Usually humans don't like to think about that, but I preach to people that by nature humans, we are weak, we are cowards, we are liars
Hmm.
by nature, and we need to fight against that. So I mean, it's easier for us to have fear rather than to be courageous and strong in the Lord. So
Yes.
yes, yes,
It's a tough life, but really without God and doing our own thing, it's not easier. It's easier in the moment, but in the long run, we set ourselves up for a lot of misery and regret, if we choose to go our own way.
I was earlier today reading my Bible prior to this meeting,
Mhm,
and I was thinking why Christian life is so different.
mhm,
Why what's the reason to live a real Christian life? And one of the reasons, I think, it's because the God of the Bible give us hope, and
mhm,
usually humans tend not to have hope. And I was thinking about countries like, let's say, North Korea or communist China or other places where the Bible is prohibited. One of the things that those governments want is that people don't have hope in any other one rather than the government of that country. So the Bible teaches to have hope in a God that is faithful, and that changes the equation, changes your life radically.
yes. Yes. And the hope that this isn't all there is either,
Yes.
because if it was, then it would be very easy to get hopeless.
And that's the kind of thing that I discovered while reading the Bible as a teenager. I didn't think it like this at that time, but reading the Bible give us hope because it teaches about a supernatural God that is above everything and all of us, and is able to change many things for our good, even though we do not understand, and give us hope for the afterlife out of
Mhm.
this world. So, in that sense, that's why I think many people or many governments don't want people to read their Bibles, and that's the reason the enemy doesn't want us to read our Bibles as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It does take intentionality to make sure that we are reading it for ourselves and not just taking someone else's word for it, too.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
All right. So you had mentioned earlier that you became involved with the project because you were invited by
yes,
Joanne
yes,
and Carol. Tell us, there was also a connection with a church in the city, right? That's how
yes,
you got to know them?
yes, yes. Our church, our local church, as probably you have heard while you have been here in Guatemala, but we divide our cities into zones. So there are neighborhoods But there is an organization in our city. So my local church was in Zone 11 in southern Guatemala City, close to my home. And at the beginning, the James Project, or Sombra de sus Alas orphanage, was located in Ciudad San Cristobal. Ciudad San Cristobal is a neighborhood, or literally in English will be Saint Christopher City. That will be the literal translation for that neighborhood or zone. Also, it's located to a neighbor municipality of Guatemala City. It's located in Mixco. Our church is in the municipality of Guatemala City. So they were, at the beginning, Mama Carol and Mama Joanne attended our local church because they were invited by Carlos Esquivel, one of the original members of the first board of James Project Guatemala, or James Project Latin America. So Carlos Esquivel, he was a member of our church, or a leader also, and he has a son who studied in the Christian Academy. Christian Academy is a Christian bilingual school located in Ciudad San Cristobal, not very far away from the original site of the orphanage. So I understand that either one of them, either Carol or Joanne, they used to work with or at Christian Academy here in Ciudad San Cristobal, Guatemala City. So they were friends. I assume Carlos Esquivel invited them, and eventually there were two American women, Carol and Joanne, the husband of Joanne at that time, Gibson, and they came with a bunch of girls. Suddenly they filled a section of the chairs of my church, and because I am bilingual, you mentioned it, my English opened doors, and obviously they were expecting someone to speak to or with at the end of the service. So probably I don't remember all the exact events, but probably I approached them, I introduced myself and saying hello, blah blah blah, and eventually one of those Sundays I preach, and I use my Apple MacBook Pro with the PowerPoint presentation or whatever. So I mentioned this because at some point, Carol also was using an Apple computer at that time, and she had issues with that computer. And she approached me one day and said, Carlos, I have issues with my laptop. Can you help me? And I went to the home in Ciudad San Cristobal and tried to help and solve the issues with either her printer or her computer. There was some things there. And at some point later on, she called me and she explained me what they were trying to do with the girls and the home. And they were thinking, I assume Joanne and Carol, thinking, well, Carlos can be a good candidate to be with us into the board of the association. And then she invited, and there was no commitment at the beginning. That's I didn't read the small letters in the contract. So it's a funny thing, but here I am 20 years later. I was invited. I heard for the very first time the actual problems and condition of a group of American missionaries trying to serve, at that time, a small group of young girls, Guatemalan girls in my country, and challenges with the authorities, with the staff, with the owner of the property, with problems with the cars, with the vans. They used to have green Toyota van
Mm-hmm.
and other vehicles, and at the second meeting I was invited, they were directly to the point. Typical Americans. So, Carlos, we want you to become a part of the board. So I say, well, I don't have to pay anything. Let's go for it. So, uh, to be honest, at some point, I said to myself, well, it's a good opportunity to practice my English because the meetings were in English.
Mm-hmm.
Because many of the members, many were Americans, but there are some Guatemalans who were also bilingual. And to make the meetings easier for Carol, for Joanne, for Give, and for the others, the meetings were in English. So I think that's one of the reasons they invited me. It's not because I am handsome or whatever or rich, but rather the practicality of being bilingual and knowing a little bit of the Guatemalan culture with authorities, with hiring people, all the social security. Obviously, as a businessman, I am familiarized with social security, taxes, and many issues of the Guatemalan culture uh, in this day. So that's how I got involved in
I'm
with James Project.
And I'm sure they also saw your heart for Jesus. So, I,
Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully, yes, yes, certainly. And that also, I want to mention this not because I want to boast myself, as you will say in English, but I when I began to read the Bible when I was a teenager, I read there that you have to be kind and helpful for the foreigners, from people outside of your country.
Mm,
And I said, wow, this is nice, and this is, I mean, you can manifest your Christianity in a practical way, helping people. I mean, in the Spanish translations, giving directions in the city. At that time, you have to remember there was no Waze, no Google Maps, not nothing. Our city at some point is complicated if you are not familiarized with boulevards, streets, and avenues. So, helping people from other countries that come to Guatemala has been kind of a part-time hobby for
mm,
me, in sense of, I mean, not only for Carol, Joanne, and all the people related to James Project, but I have contact with other Americans, Canadians, and other people, and it's not the idea of, as I want to emphasize this,
emphasize.
uh,
Yep.
but I mean, I have clear that part of helping outsiders, because uh, uh, whatever I sow, I will reap. I have traveled outside of Guatemala, and I have found the favor of other people who don't know me at all, and they help me with directions, with the problems, with the culture, with the language, etc., etc. So it's giving and receiving that kind of help at some
Yeah.
point, and that's the reason also to help, because they were needing, because according to Guatemalan laws, they must have Guatemalans into the board of the association.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we do reap what we sow. So it's important to think about that. All right. And so you've been sowing into the presidency of this board for a long time. So tell us about, what does that mean for you? You said you're the legal representative for the government, for the face of the organization. So what does
Yes.
that mean for you on a personal level, your business? We talked about the importance of your life in general.
First, people need to know that this is I don't receive a salary for doing this. This
No.
is a volunteer work.
Mhm.
This is not for someone who wants to become famous, rich and famous, but rather someone who is conscious of the very sad situation of many children in Guatemala. Because, as I mentioned it before, because you are the president, I mean, you are the top authority into a legal body, which is the board of the Association of Proyecto Santiago de Latinoamérica, James Project of Latin America. The Guatemalans law give the authority, to this same person, the president, not the vice president, not anyone else of the board. The president can give like a power of attorney to another member from the board or employee, which I have done. The ones of you, the people who are watching this and have been there, more than likely they have met Herbert Rivera. Herbert Rivera has a power of attorney signed by me and a lawyer, and he has authority in front of the authorities of Guatemala to solve different kind of issues, but he is not the final responsible. And that's a term. I don't know if you in the States or in the English culture use this term, but I am the final authority. I mean, if there is a problem, a major issue, I am going to jail. That's what it means in terms of. I mean, it's good to say I am the president of the board. That's a nice and very chic thing to say, but in the actual field of work, it's. I mean, I went to the banks and my signature is there in all the bank accounts of the project. When there is an issue with the employees and the Ministry of Work is involved or the Social Security is involved, I am the final responsible in terms of maybe I won't go to jail because a problem with a employee, but I am the responsible to sign the papers in front of the ministry. So it means from time to time, I have to take the time, the day for going to Monjas from Guatemala City to Monjas to attend some issues. It means that eventually they will call me, Don Carlos, we need you to go to this government office and attend these meetings, hear this, receive those papers, and or sign some papers. That's the kind of thing. So as a businessman, I mean, I don't want to boast myself, but all of us are busy at some point. And being the president means, okay, wait, time out. I need to take care of this. Thanks God, Tiffany, Brian, and all the staff, Herbert, they are a really good team. And I have to be honest saying that is not, I am not like it's a 24/7 active duty kind of work, but rather it's something they try as much as they can not to bother me with issues from the project, but they are also aware that from time to time I am the only one able to solve some kind of issues. So and for example, when when people or our sister organizations in the States and Canada, they wire money here for the budget and everything. Every month, I am the one who receives a phone call from the bank saying, Mr. Orellana, we have received this money for Proyecto Santiago de Latinoamérica. This is how much are you going to receive. We are going to you are going to receive a preferred exchange rate because you are a VIP customer, quote unquote, or in parentheses, and you will have the money this afternoon. But we want to confirm if this is a donation from the project. So I have to, because of the Guatemalan law, they have to double check with me that it's not money laundry or whatever. So that's another kind of responsibility that I have. And it has been my pleasure, it has been my blessing to serve. I mean, I have been, probably we were going to talk about this forward of this, but I think it's a good thing to mention that it has been a blessing for me to attend staff meeting. Let's call it like that. Staff meeting by the end of each year during these last 5 years. I think it has even going back to 2019, maybe prior to COVID. But the thing is, by the end of the year, many companies, as in the States, they make like a Thanksgiving meeting. Let's call it like that. So there is food, there is happiness. Employees here in Guatemala, they receive a 13th salary as a bonus by law. So it's an opportunity that many companies, they first thank. Obviously, we thank God for his faithfulness and his mercy and his help during all the working year. And they receive an envelope with the check for their bonuses. And let's have food. I mean, let's have a barbecue, and we call it here churrasco. Instead of barbecue, we use the term churrasco, and there is beef, and there is salad, rice, black beans, tortillas, obviously, and a bunch of soda. I won't say brands, but there is soda. And there is chili as well, hot sauce, Guatemalan style. So I like to make barbecues and enjoy. I mean, giving. Although it's not my money, to be honest, to be transparent, I don't put the money to buy the beef. I cook it. So it's a pleasure making or cooking meat for a group of 50, 60 people, and see them closing their eyes like, this is a nice piece of meat. So I have encouraged them and reward them, because at some point it's I mean, serving children in our countries, it's an anonymous hero story, kind of. So they are not rich, neither famous, and obviously they cannot boast themselves into social media saying what they're doing. But I have felt the necessity to thank them, encourage them, and bless them because of the kind of the specialized and complicated kind of work they're doing there at the project. So they are, even a few months before that meeting, they are telling me, Carlos, are you ready by the end of the year? We are thinking of this date or this other date. Everybody is anxious, awaiting this kind of meeting. So it's happy to see the tias eating. It's happy, I mean, joyful to see the staff, the mothers and the fathers enjoying and asking, being brave enough to ask for a second piece of meat. So are they toasting tortillas. I mean, it's the Guatemalan delicacy.
Mm-hmm.
That the term?
Delicacy. Yeah.
Delicacy that many foreigners have not discovered, but
Mm.
toasting a tortilla on the charcoals with smoke, it's another story. So the the thing is serving them. I mean, and they are eventually, you can see that they appreciate the effort. They know that the president of the board is coming from Guatemala City. It's a 100 miles
Mm.
drive from the city. It's 3 hours, sometimes four, even 4 hours driving from the city to Monjas. So they are thankful
Mm-hmm.
for obviously receiving their money, but having a good meal, having, I mean, there are some gifts that the staff, the Herbert and the leadership, they give away in order to have a good time, a family kind of time
Mm-hmm.
for the staff. So um, yes, sometimes I have, as a president, I am the one to make the final call from some issues,
Mm-hmm.
working, taking the, I mean, we have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
After
Yes.
hearing all the opinions, after hearing all the pros and all the cons,
Mm-hmm.
you have to take a decision on some matters. Some are way much easier than others, but I mean, we have all the things, and I have seen you, all this became because you asked about sowing and reaping and my context as a businessman and president. I have seen that God has blessed my business.
Mm.
Maybe I have invested 2 hours solving something, making a phone. Sometimes it's just making a phone call to someone to connect, to resolve, to inform, to clarify, whatever, to request something. And God has been faithful all these years. I mean, to be honest, I have to mention that I haven't sacrificed a lot of time and effort into this, but all the small things I have seen that God has been faithful. I
Mm.
do not travel very frequently to Monjas, but God has been faithful. That even I don't know what a flat tire is when I travel to Monjas.
Right.
God has been faithful up to that point, even.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with gasoline, with everything, it's God has faithful, and He, I mean, personally, as a city boy,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy driving to the countryside and seeing the mountains. You have been here, uh,
Mm-hmm.
seeing some. Usually, I leave the city while it's still dark at the
Mm.
beginning of the day.
Yeah.
So while driving to Monjas, I see the sunrise many times, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a wonderful experience for my soul, for my spirit,
Yeah.
seeing the valleys and sorry, and seeing the sun, the sky. And at the end of the day, because it's a 1 day trip back and forth from Monjas, I see the sunset when usually I travel with my wife. We see the sunset, and it's a wonderful experience in terms of having something else to do,
Yeah.
breaking up my daily routine
Mm-hmm.
working here in the city. So I look forward when I have to go to Monjas to do some business.
Yeah. So it is a big responsibility though when the buck stops with you. So and we had talked before about how that affects your whole life and
Mhm.
how you have to be really diligent to
Mm,
be on top of your entire life. Be clean in all areas is what we were
yes,
talking about. Like what is that? Tell us a little bit more about that. The importance of your integrity in
yes.
every area of your life when you're in this role as president.
Well, that's I understood that many years ago. Let's say because there was a major change or shift in our business with my father, because our business was founded by my father. He was the owner and legal representative of himself in front of the Guatemalan government. So eventually we created a company with shares, and it's the same model as an NGO or non-profit as James Project, but in this case it's a profit company. But the thing is, here, because of tax laws in Guatemala, the legal representative has a tax ID. And that tax ID, which is in Spanish, is NIT, Número de Identificación Tributaria, NIT, tax ID. That is my NIT is linked to the NIT of the association in the tax revenue office here, the IRS, and the equivalent in Guatemala. So if I do something wrong, if I am involved in a trial, if I am, as a businessman, I am involved into a tax evasion or something, or if I do something wrong, even if I am driving fine with my car and there is a pedestrian or a motorbiker and we have an accident and he's injured or die, I am involved into a legal process because of that. That will affect the project because my tax ID can be blocked in the system of the tax office here. So it's not an issue of being afraid, of having fear of doing anything, but rather it's I have taken it like good, very good excuse to have a perfect life, if you know what I mean. Let's suppose, God forbids, I am involved in a divorce with my wife. Even that will affect the project at some at some time and part. Usually, if not always, a divorce there are no good divorces. Usually there are legal issues. I mean, houses, money, cars, children, you name it. And let's suppose I am involved into a divorce with my wife. That will affect at some point because of the legal processes to the project. So we, as the person who is the president of the board, must try to do his or her best to have a clean life. Let's say it like that, in order not to affect the legality or the legal status of the project. Or in my case is the family business, James Project Association, and other instances, other realms that my name is involved. So in that sense, it's not, I mean, you cannot wear masks in this position. Either you are or you are not. You can fool. There is a famous quote around there, but you can fool some at the beginning, you can fool other at later, but you cannot fool everybody all the time. And people have seen my wife, that she is genuine in her service. The staff and everything can have seen. I mean, again, it's not about boasting myself or saying I am perfect. I mean, I am far from being perfect, but I am trying my best. So I drive carefully. I conduct my business issues, my church issues, my family issues, trying to be a good man. I many years ago, many years ago, when the movie Private Ryan went out, I was in Miami, Florida, attending some businesses. So for different reasons, I had to stay a couple of days more in the city. And the movie was in the first days of exhibition. And I said, I heard, and it was a movie that shocked me. But at the end of the movie, maybe you remember, and all those watching, you can remember that quote that the old Ryan soldier is saying to his wife, "Did I have a good life? Was I a good man?" And those phrases, I mean, it was, I mean, yes, I have to go, I have to be a good man. I have to have a good life. At least my name has to be, when the people remember my name, they have to have a good idea of who I was in life. So remember, returning to your question, you have to be a responsible person. You have to be aware that you don't live for yourself in your own interests. You have to be a good ambassador, mainly for Jesus. And from there, for James Project, for the Orellana family, and so on. But you have to be a good ambassador of the kingdom of God. And from there, it will be natural. I mean, in all the spheres of influence where you are, people will see. I mean, I have probably, we talk about this, but it's very easy to be a complicated customer. It's very easy to be a tyrant president of the board, if you want to call it like that. It's harder at some point to make people laugh. At some point, it's harder to be the people who bring solutions, real solutions to the table. It's harder to be the person who is always there at some point. So that's where I'm standing. That has been my way of thinking. I mean, I want to bring solutions. I want to be helpful. I am very happy. Even as you, as a mother, you can identify with this. When one of your children applies your counsel, your suggestion, and they succeed, it is well with them when they apply a counsel, a good advice that you have given them, and you feel like, wow, this is good. I mean,
It's a wonderful feeling. Yes, I'm a mom of young adults right now, so I don't see it real often in this stage of life, but I do believe it will come around and I'll see more fruit from that.
eventually, I mean,
And
even when I see with my daughters, I mean, my daughters, they for different situations, they are right now in places where they can cook, and they apply the techniques of cooking of my wife, and I can see that they are serving, they are happy,
yeah,
they are realized. I mean, no,
yeah,
that's not. I think that's not proper in English, but in Spanish we can tell están realizadas in
true,
terms of they feel successful. In other words,
right.
although in English I think realize it's just a different meaning, but they feel useful. They feel themselves useful. They feel that they can do things by their own.
Yes,
So that's
yeah.
that's that's an awesome feeling.
And I joke, my kids are actually better at listening to me than probably a lot of kids their age. So I just pick on them.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
But it sounds like you have used this opportunity to serve the James Project for as long as you have to be a source of motivation, to be a
Yes,
man of integrity.
yes.
Yeah.
my grandma and my grandmother on my mother's side, she was a very, very humble woman. She was not even able to read. She was so poor. She was not able to read. So, but she had a very good collection of sayings. And one of those sayings says, "Son is not good enough to do things right. You must have to give the impression you are doing things right."
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, it's good to receive phone calls from the bank and uh, um, and make a good use of the money donated. That's good, but you have to go a step further and show that you are actually doing things right. You know, sometimes many people, parents, children, all of us do good things, but we are not promoting ourselves, publishing, I am doing this and doing that. But when we make a mistake, everybody is very good at pointing at you and saying you made a mistake. So,
Right.
in that terms, sometimes, um, in terms of service, even giving a smile, people are expecting our smile, and there is a very damaging culture out there, which presidents of boards, owners of companies, pastors of some sort of success, they do not smile to strangers because they are so important. They are wow people. So I have noted, and that kind of thing I learned from my father, from my mother, in terms of sometimes just a smile to a stranger will make a difference
Yeah.
in the life of that person for that day. So, in terms of being the president, being accessible to the staff, being to laugh with the staff, to serve a meal, a delicious meal to the staff or to the employees. People appreciate, because unfortunately, many people in my country, that's a cultural issue. Many people in my country have a low concept of themselves. I don't know if that's the way you say it in English, but they think that they are here and the president is here, the American missionaries are above here, and there is a gap between them. And as you know, in the Bible, there are no difference. So when they see that someone from the big city of Guatemala is coming to the small town of Monjas and being there 2-3 hours, being smoked by the barbecue, and being and standing for 2-3 hours cooking beef or the meat, they say, what's going on here? Maybe he's not receiving a quetzal or a dollar for being here. What happened here with this guy? Or with his wife at all? Because my wife usually comes. I want to recognize and thank my wife, because when I have gone there, I'm sorry, she stays there by my side, serving, helping, smiling, etc., etc. So I think that helps. And I want to also once again return to your question. Let's suppose the president does something wrong. His tax ID is blocked, or he's involved into a problematic legal case. And although there is a vice president and there are other people who can take the position, it's not an easy or fast process to do that.
Mhm.
So while everything is solving, the project is in danger of being without a legal head.
Mhm.
So, I mean, my worst scenario, or even if it will be easier for the project if the president dies
Mhm.
rather than be involved into a legal problem here.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I have shared with the board
Mhm.
the importance, the vital importance of that everything legal must be okay, in
Mhm.
terms that we don't have any obstacles,
Mhm.
because usually, as you know, governments like putting obstacles, because when there is a legal obstacles, usually they will receive a payment for a uh, to solve that problem. I mean, I am not talking about bribing. I cannot remember the English term for, but you have to pay for a traffic ticket, or you have to pay extra money to receive a license to build a building or whatever. I mean, there is an legal obstacle, either you solve the problem or you pay to solve the problem.
Mhm.
So in that sense, uh, if there is no the legal representation of the organization has issues.
Mhm.
No, I mean, we cannot function, we cannot work.
Mhm.
But if everything is fine, and I have seen that, I was in a meeting, and this government official were saying, well, welcome, Mr. Orellana. Where are your license to be the legal representative? Here you have my paper. Where is the tax ID certification? Here you have. Where is your personal identification, my driver's license, let's say? Here you have. Where is the whatever? And I have all the papers they were requesting.
Mhm.
And they say, like, okay, well, then, blah, 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 and the problem was solved.
Mhm.
And they were like expecting me, I forgot, I don't have, it's expired or whatever. They were expecting an excuse from
Mhm.
my side, but thank God that day we have all the papers
Mhm.
signed, sealed, valid, whatever. I mean, all the things paid, up
Mhm.
to date, and they didn't have the excuse not to serve us or serve the ministry
Mhm.
or serve the children
Right.
of our ministry. So
Mhm.
at the end, Kathy, is to serve Guatemalan children. Is
Mhm.
not to boast the personality of the president or the American missionaries or whatever. Finally, the idea is to serve disadvantaged Guatemalan children, especially girls, obviously, although boys are also suffering. I am very aware that girls and young girls, they have more issues or more complications than
Mhm.
boys. So, in that sense, I think the relevance of being to be guided by the book, to make every rule by the book, it's very important in order that these kind of organizations work are properly and are effective
Mhm.
uh, towards its purposes. I have been in meetings where other representatives of other Christians' homes, Christian ministries, for whatever reason, they do not have all their set of papers
Mhm.
up to date.
Mhm.
And I have heard and I have seen all the possible nightmares or worst case scenarios that an organization can suffer. So
Mhm.
I am grateful, I am thankful, I am happy that this next August I will give my presidency with everything. We have done as much as we are able As much as Guatemalan authorities have allow us, there are some current issues with CNA, Consejo Nacional de Adopciones, which is a very complicated Guatemalan office. And but for the rest, I mean, for the Social Security, the Ministry of Work, PGN, the National Attorney Office, et cetera, are in general terms that we are doing okay. So, and tax office as well. So I can, that's what I can tell you right now. It's in that sense, it's a great responsibility, and I am thankful. I want to say this. I want to mention this before I forget. I have had the privilege of presiding a wonderful board. They are very collaborative. They have been there when I call them, and we have tried. I have mentioned this to Brian and Tiffany. I want to be a help, not an obstacle, but rather a help. And we have joined forces. You want to say it like that. We have joined forces with Tiffany and Brian in order to expedite all the processes because of the bylaws of the organization. Sometimes they need authorization from the board to do or to make some things, and I don't want to be a problem in their lives, but rather a solution, a good counselor to make good suggestions, etc., etc. I mean, that's one of the things my father, more than likely, he have told me when I was a small kid. He said, "Carlos, I want you to be a problem solver," and I try to live by that. Although people may say I am not perfect, and I am aware I am not perfect, but in general terms, every day I try to be a problem solver rather than the bad guy in the story.
Right. And you were saying that that you doing things by the book is what keeps everything. And it reminded me of the verse in Joshua that says, "Meditate on this word day and night, and if you do what it says, you things will go well with you." So it's
Mm.
people like to think that the Bible is a book of like rules to steal your joy and make your life miserable and no fun. But the reality is it's really good advice, and when we follow it, things do go well with us. I mean, and to the integrity and the motivation to be a person of integrity and be upstanding is so important for not just your family and your church, but the organization. And I think that that's where the second part of that verse that the James Project is based on. It's James 1:27. It says, "Pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their adversity." But this is the part we sometimes forget to include, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. And that's really what you're talking about is doing it God's way so
Mm-hmm.
that the world doesn't get in the way of what he's trying to do.
That's right, precisely. I have discovered that many people who criticize the
Mhm.
Bible have not read the Bible at all.
Mhm.
Probably they have read just parts of the Bible.
Mhm.
And we have to have present the reality that Hollywood and the movies tend to present evangelicals or people who read the Bible as crazy people, religious people, or extremists at some
Yeah.
point, fanatical people.
Mhm.
But I have discovered, on the contrary, that when you read the Bible, it's a very, very practical book. I mean, there are things that advise. When we are teenager, we tend to think that our parents are a human collection of rules and prohibitions.
Mm-hmm.
On the contrary, when you are a father or a mother and you see your children, you want to share all your knowledge and all your life conclusions and learning. I made a joke when my children were younger that unfortunately God has not given us a USB port, so I can upload all my knowledge, all my bad experiences, and connect it to put it into my children brains in order to so they can fast
Avoid.
avoid a lot of trouble. But apparently even the Bible says that you need to leave some problems in your own lives in order to have proper knowledge or learning of some life experiences. But I want to mention that Bible is very practical, and I I am involved in many other things. But one of the things is because we print books and that kind of literature, Christian literature. From time to time, I have been invited to give workshops about reading books. I mean, how to provoke, how to encourage young people, especially children and young people, on reading books. And I mentioned this because I found, and I want to encourage our viewers to Google for it. You in English have the advantage for that, but there is a organization in Washington D.C. I think it's obviously it must be Christian, and obviously it must be conservative organization in which they say that there are many studies, professional made studies that have discovered that people who read the Bible make them more intelligent, literally.
Wow.
I will try to find one of those. I will send you by email that link, but I will encourage our viewers to look for it, and if they found it or they are aware one of those, maybe they can share it with us. But the thing is, and they were explaining the reasons. I mean, the Western culture is very influenced by the Bible. Either we like it or not. But for instance, many young people, if they haven't read the Bible, they do not understand the story of David and Goliath, for example. They hear David and Goliath, and who knows who are they? I mean, who cares? But if you read the Bible and you see the beginning, the body, and the conclusion of the story, then you have something to add to your life. And many other, Jesus and the storm.
Mm.
What Jesus? What storm? But if you read the Bible, you will see that the Son of God saved literally his disciples from an actual storm, rain, water, wind, darkness, etc., etc. So it will be a good idea to have one of those studies, and it's not just one, but this man says that there is several studies, and it will make sense. For us who have read the Bible, it makes sense.
Yes. And I was just having this conversation with a friend the other day. She mentioned that a lot of people avoid the Old Testament. But to
Mm.
me, I love the Old Testament because it's like the New Testament advice walked out. You know, you see Nehemiah, who is so faithful, and people can read that story in his book, but he deals with people making fun of him. He deals with all kinds of distractions. He deals with
Bully.
fear. Bullies, exactly. And he deals with it in a way that is biblical and right. And you see the fruit of that. You see how God was faithful in his obedience to keep doing what he was asked despite the obstacles that were placed in front of him. Or Joshua, you know, you talk about humility and integrity. There's so many opportunities for Joshua to get a big head for what God is about to have him do. In the first chapter, he's telling him, you're going to be above everyone, he's giving him Moses's role, and you see him continually respond in humility. Those I love those stories because it gives you that understanding of, okay, when I'm in this situation, I have an example of how to do it right. And so yeah, I think the Bible is so helpful for those things for
And
sure.
if you don't read the Old Testament, you miss Psalms, you
Mhm.
miss Proverbs,
Yeah.
you miss, the first five books of Moses in Genesis, Exodus, etc.
Hmm.
And you can see that God gave rules for the good living, or good,
For the benefit.
good, the benefit of the people of Israel.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Bless you.
Thank you very much. Very sorry.
Okay.
So you can see their rules to protect the weak, to
Hmm.
protect the poor.
Yes. Bless you.
Thank you. I'm very sorry. I am
Okay.
allergic, and
Hmm.
there must be something here. So,
Hmm.
um, I mean, there are so many things, and you have heard that. I have heard that people that don't like to read the Old Testament. I have hear people who don't want to read the Revelation book because
Yes.
they are scared of the end of the world, or the end of times. And when you read it with some glasses, let's say
Mhm.
it like that, I mean, if you are Christian and your name is written in the book of life of Jesus, Revelation is a book of hope.
Mhm.
Revelation is a good book of triumph.
Mhm.
Because Revelation is a book of hope for all of us. So
Good
in
answer.
that sense, yes, the people who are not Christians, they must be afraid
Mm.
of what the book of Revelation talks about. But for us Christian, it's a book of hope, a book of love. God will rescue his children. So for me as a Christian, there is no fear. I mean, and even though maybe I do not understand all the figures and all the terms or all the verses there, I can see clearly that God is above all.
So
But the Bible is a very practical book.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's a spiritual book,
Mhm.
but also I want to mention that it's a letter of love. If
Mhm.
you can see it like that, it's like a letter of a loving father to his son or daughter.
Mhm.
We just read in our church the book of Proverbs. As you know, Proverbs have 30
31.
chapters, and usually I suggest to read in a month, one chapter daily. But you
Mhm.
can see, I mean, someone who says the Bible is not practical, obviously he or she has not read Proverbs,
Right.
obviously.
Mhm. And it sounds like your reading and understanding of the Bible from a teenager on is what you would credit your ability to walk out your faith in every area of your life. Would you say that?
Yes,
That
yes.
is, yeah.
At some parts of my life, I, I mean, the text just came. I mean, even though I am not good at memorizing the Bible, which I
Mhm.
must be, which I must do. Uh,
Mhm.
um, the thing is that eventually it says, I am in a situation, and let's say it comes to my mind, you must forgive in order to be forgiven.
Mm.
How can you bargain with that verse? How can you negotiate with the Lord in those terms?
Right.
I was a Catholic. I was raised in a Catholic school, and the Our Father in Heaven, it's a almost daily, omnipresent prayer for
Mhm.
the average Catholic.
Mhm.
But many Catholics, which have not read the Bible, they cannot see by the end of that passage in Matthew It says, above all the things that Jesus could say in that part, he mentioned about forgiving and forgiveness and the necessity. It's a must for the Christian to forgive. So, and again, that's why I can understand that the world system, Hollywood, social media, they don't want they don't want our children, the young generation, to read the Bible because it has the power to change for good, like people who are depressed, people with a low concept of themselves, success in business, success in life in general, obviously a success in marriage, and so on. I can be here 2 more hours about this experience, but I am grateful. I was not a reader when I was a teenager. I read because the pastor or the leader of my church forced me to read the Bible, or they, maybe it will sound not too good, but they had the ability, at least in my case, to feel sorrow or to make me feel bad because I was not reading the Bible. And I encourage my Catholic friends, family, or relatives to read their own Bibles, even their own Catholic Bibles. I have a couple of Catholic Bibles here in my home, and they have a really good translations in Spanish. And in general terms, they said exactly what my evangelical Bible says. And I encourage them, just read your Bible. A few years ago, during COVID, I was able to read because we were into our homes, obligated by the goodwill of our governments. I was inside of my home, so I read a biography of Martin Luther. And I don't know how much do you know about him or his movement, or viewers, how much they read. There is an excellent biography. I understand it was originally written in English, and I read a translation into Spanish. But this biography, one of the conclusions is because he was a Catholic monk. He didn't want to create another religion or a division into the Catholic Church. He wanted reformation, and that's the proper term, reformation. The princes of Germany were the ones protesting against the Pope. So even though we are now called sometimes Protestants, the ones who protested were German princes or the royalty of Germany against the Pope. Martin Luther was a reformer. He wanted the Catholic Church to return to the Bible, to the teachings. And why is that? Because he, as a monk, was a Bible professor at a university in Germany. And he had to teach students about the book of Romans, Ephesians, Corinthians. That was his class.
Yeah.
So as you will understand, the model is the same. As me and my family many years ago heard the same Christian songs many times while testing the vinyl records in the factory or in the company, Martin Luther had to read Romans, 1st, 2nd Corinthians, Ephesians, Galatians several times in order to prepare his classes.
Right.
And reading those classes, he discovered that salvation is by grace, not by works. So it was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, this is way too much different of my the teachings of my actual Catholic Church. I mean, I am talking 500 years ago, and still Catholic Church today still preaches that you must do things in order to obtain your salvation. People who read their Catholic Bible will discover, as well as Martin Luther and all the other reformists, what what they read 500 years ago. And that's the power of freedom. Jesus, many people today quote Jesus, and they don't even know it was Jesus who said that the truth
Will set you free.
must set you free. But there are some other texts before that and some other texts after that that you need to see the context. But the truth that Jesus is mentioning is eventually the Word of God, is the Word of God who sets you free. Not the truth from the government, not the truth from a current trendy politician, but rather the truth from God. And I have a friend, an American who lives in Santa Rosa, California. His name is Dennis Peacock. He's a speaker and a pastor, a preacher, and he says, he says, the truth as God sees it, not the truth as you see it, but the truth as God sees it and know it's true. Because sometimes we say, well, the glass is green. Yeah,
Right.
but maybe I have a problem with my eyes. I am looking at it, and maybe I see it red or whatever. Or maybe I am blind. Actually, physically, I am blind. But the truth is, it's a cup of plastic made green. So we need to pray in order to ask Him to allow us to see the truth as He sees it. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, and you talk about it goes along with the integrity and the truth as he sees it, and it. I love the theme of the book of James because he talks about being doers of the word, not just hearers. And so in US culture, walk the talk, you know what I mean? Like we have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And so why do you think that's so important? I mean, James obviously felt it was a struggle for the people in his day because the whole book is really showing you, if you say you have faith, this is what it should look like, not this. And if you say that you follow Jesus, this is what you should be doing, not this. So if it was such an issue for the people then, and it feels like it's very relevant now, why do you think it's so hard and such a struggle for people that say we have faith in Jesus to not walk that walk?
Well, many people, probably even myself, sometimes we uh, say something and do other thing totally different.
Yeah.
The world, but especially our young people, our children, are tired of hypocrites, are tired of saying something and doing another thing. We as adults, we are tired of our politicians. We cannot talk only about American politicians nor Guatemalan politicians. In general terms, all politicians in all places, on all ages, have always promised something and done things totally different. People, I think human beings crave, hopefully that's the term, crave for the truth, for reality. That's embedded into our being at some point. So when I mention this, I'm remembering Genesis 3, where Satan tempted the first couple, and it was the tree of science and knowledge. That's how it's saying in Spanish Bibles. I don't know how, I don't remember in English, but That's how it says in one of the translations in Spanish. So Eve wanted to know reality as God sees it, to know the truth as God sees it. So in that term, in that sense, we are tired of religion games. And the world, if we say it like that, but humans want to know the truth, want to see the truth applied to reality. And that book, the Bible, encourages, teaches, command us to live by that reality. I mean, I'm trying to, that's a very profound or a deep question, what you are asking, even though it sounds easy to answer. But the thing is, people want to see reality. I mean, when Jesus was, I mean, Jesus is the truth, the life, and the only way to the Father. And when you, I learned a few years ago, reading a book of Dennis Peacock. Our viewers will make a good thing trying to Google Dennis Peacock from Santa Rosa, California for more. But returning to what I was saying is truth. Jesus was the incarnation of truth. We in the Western world are influenced by the Greek way of thinking, the Greek and Roman worldview. And in Greek culture, truth was a concept, a virtue. In Hebrew worldview or Bible worldview, the truth was incarnated into a human being, and that is Jesus Christ. So you have to change your understanding about truth. When people say that truth will set you free, you can interpret that verse like Jesus will set you free, and he is the only one able to set you free. This Peacock guy, he talks about a lot of the truth and the change in our worldview. And again, returning to your question, the Bible has the power to change your worldview. And from there, your set of values for your life. So it's God's thinking. So if we read the Bible, we will learn God's thinking. And in that way, we will understand, although it's humanly speaking, it's impossible, we will understand better God's way of doing things. So when I return to what you have been asking me, people who criticize Bibles and preachers and the prophets and prophecy, etc., it's because they haven't read the Bible. There is this Charlie Kirk guy in the States. Probably you have heard about him. And it amazes me when he's in a university campus talking about Bible, the truth, worldview, etc. Eventually, then there is a professor, a atheist professor, or a very important. You have a term in English, I cannot remember. This student who have discovered the truth, and he says blah blah blah, the Bible, God rules, he doesn't want us to be happy. And Charlie Kirk, sometimes he just asks, have you read the Bible, the whole book? And many of those say, no, I haven't. So you cannot criticize a book which you haven't read already, the whole book. So a change of paradigm, that's another important. I mean, usually when we talk about forgiving an offense to us, the world has teaches us the paradigm that you need to make vengeance of the offense. You have to retaliate. That's the proper thing in
Right.
human nature. The Bible asks us for a change of that paradigm and
Mm-hmm.
look for what he teaches us is better
Mm-hmm.
than retaliation or vengeance. Just to give a quick example, we can talk many other examples like that.
Mm-hmm. And I think what we had talked about before too, and this kind of comes in at this point, is our decisions are often based on a very minute moment in time. And
Mhm.
so while it seems like that's the right and fair thing to do is to get vengeance for someone who's hurt us, God's perspective of that is a much longer game. It's a much broader picture, and it's a wide angle lens that he looks at it in. And he can see when we try to retaliate, what's going to happen at, where does that stop? You're just fighting back and forth against each other. It talks about it in Galatians. If you just devour one another,
Mhm.
how can there be peace? And so just that, God is looking at it from a much broader perspective. And I think that we, with our finite, limited ability to grasp the situation, tend to let our human nature take over. And just like they did when James was writing this book to them and pointing out, it's a long game. It's a bigger picture here. It's not just your little tiny life in this moment and this offense, or whatever it is. It's a much bigger picture, and the ripple effect of our behavior, it ripples out to generations. And it's important to be aware, to some extent, to the extent that we can be, of the results of our behavior and our choices. And then when we can't be aware of it, of the full aspect of it, then we just need to trust that God has a good plan. And whatever offense happened back here that he asks us not to get vengeance for, even if we see it not come to pass, like if we see this person prospering, and I mean, he talks about it in Psalms, right? These people look like their lives are fantastic. And you're sitting there like, but they hurt me so badly. Why isn't something happening to them? We don't know the end of the story.
Yes, yes.
And we like to think that we do. And this chapter is the most important chapter that ever has been lived because we're living it. And we need to walk this out. But really, if we can just let go of that and trust God to be the author of our story.
I want to, I am thinking, let's talk about another change of paradigm. For
Okay.
example, let's suppose there is a young man in the States, any city, any state,
Mhm,
and he, for whatever reason, he has $500 in his hand.
mhm,
And he says, well, I am looking for the new iPhone or the new iWatch
mhm,
for me, for my pleasure. I have worked hard on summertime for this. It's nothing bad. I'm not talking about anything against that kind of technology.
mhm,
At some point, it's a toy, a
mhm,
temporarily, a temporal toy. At some point,
mhm,
let's.
mhm.
There is nothing illegal or ungodly on thinking I want to enjoy the fruit of my work, of my
Yeah.
honest work. But eventually, he receives an email. He watches a post on Facebook or whatever social media, and they say James Project, Latin America, girls, Guatemalan boys, need, poor, you name it. And
Mhm,
he has this crisis. He
mm,
hears a small voice in his heart, give your $500 to James Project.
mm,
And there is a fight in his mind and his soul, maybe not his spirit, but his soul. I
mm,
deserve this, I work for this, but maybe he can imagine the face of a poor girl in a third world country. And I mean, if he doesn't give the 500 US, maybe God will take care of that necessity, and someone else will give it to
Mhm.
that project,
Mhm.
and there won't be a problem. He won't be maybe a more religious or less religious, but he doesn't he didn't take advantage of this opportunity. Let's say like that. And who
Mhm.
knows, maybe that 500 US will eventually reach in all the chain of processes. Eventually that money will end into the account of a project. And there is a little girl who is dying literally because she doesn't have the money for buying the medicine for that necessity.
Mhm.
Instead of a toy,
Mhm.
which is going to eventually break down or something, will
Mm.
get loose or someone is going to steal or whatever, or will be, there is another term, be too old in
Mhm.
technology in 5 years, 10 years from now, it will be, there, I don't remember the word, but you
Outdated.
can, sorry,
Outdated.
outdated. That's the word I was looking for. But this 500 came in the exact moment, and that life is saved.
Mhm.
Beyond the rewards that the Lord certainly will give, beyond the blessing, beyond the beautiful story, I want to emphasize the change of paradigm,
Mm.
because we are trained by the world to enjoy for ourselves. And at some point, it's not bad. I mean, that's fine.
Right. Mhm.
But when you have a kingdom based worldview,
Mhm.
you can say, well, I can invest this and be out of my selfish cocoon
Mhm.
and think in eternity, think in sowing, thinking in being grateful that I live in a first world country where I
Mhm.
have gasoline, a vehicle, I have electricity, I have this and that. And I am grateful. Now I want to stop here, and before I forget, I have been thinking all these days before to this recording, Kathy, that I
Mhm.
want to say I am grateful as a Guatemalan, not as the president of the board, not as a member of the project, but as a Guatemalan. I am grateful and thankful for all the resources, not just money, time, and all the things that Americans, Canadians, and people from other places send to these girls and boys in my country. There are other people, maybe who are not going to watch this, but the Lord knows who are they and where are located, and the Lord know their struggles. And I am aware that many of you, who only you and the Lord knows how sacrificial your
Mhm.
offering have been towards the project. I want you to know that we as a board, we do not receive any cent whatsoever, but
Mhm.
everything goes directly to the payroll, to the electricity, water, food, medicine, even dental care. I mean, there are many, 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 and you have changed. Many people, not only here, but certainly in the States, Kathy, they complain, life has been rough to me. Uh, there are no opportunities for me. But certainly, the money that donors send to our countries, to our projects, are life changing opportunities. Unfortunately, there are children who don't take a good care or good advantage or use this in a proper term, but you save lives. I mean, only in eternity we will be aware of all the rich that our resources had. Not only money, again, I am aware that a smile, a piece, a meal, a warm meal for a person in need. I don't know, a verse. Now we are very used to sending Bible verses. Our social media should be used not for our personal gain or personal boasting, but rather His glory, His name, etc., etc. So I want now I have said it. I am very thankful on behalf of my people and behalf of my country. Thank you very much.
Mm. And when we spoke before, you were expressing your gratitude for Americans and Canadians versus the grief that you sometimes feel for your
Yes,
own countrymen. Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, we are Guatemalan culture, Latin America culture, but in general, a worldly culture,
Mm.
tend to think only in themselves. Me, as you say in English, me, myself, and I, in other
Mm.
words. And I don't want to be rough with my nationals. And there, from time to time, there are causes, good causes here. And just a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, there were some earthquakes here, as maybe you have heard.
Yes.
And in social media, radio, TV, they say, well, we are collecting food and clothing and water, blah blah blah. So, in general terms, the Christian church and Guatemalans, they tend to be a giving people, but from not all of them. Maybe that's a culture shift, cultural shift that it's happening, that Guatemalan people are beginning to learn to be grateful, and from that gratefulness, thankfulness, giving away. But sometimes we are, I mean, I see the numbers. I can tell you how big is the generosity of Americans and Canadians who are moved by the Lord to be participant or to participate in this ministry in a specific. But sometimes I see when here the staff approach uh, businesses, companies, individuals, and they say, well, I hear I give this much, but it's just in cents, if we can use that term, not actual cents, but there are very low offerings, if we can say it. One of the things of the advantages of having everything legal, good, in the case of president, board, taxes, etc., is that we can give here in Guatemala tax exempt receipts, so people can use them in their tax declarations or in the tax season. I mean, uh, you can fight back taxes with donations, in other words. So even though we can do that, and there are exceptions in my country, great and wonderful exceptions, churches, businesses, and individuals. In general terms, it's complicated. I mean, many Christian orphanages like ours depend on foreign donations. That's the truth. And there are, even the Catholic Church sometimes struggles trying to raise money for whatever you name it. I mean, and there are always people who complain about pastors getting rich with offerings. There will be people complaining about the Catholic leadership getting rich and doing improper things with the money, blah blah blah. But certainly that's the reality. That's reality. But I am aware that God is faithful, that God is able to reward you for your generosity. So we are trying to change that mindset in our country. For example, I mean, you know how much it's, let's say, an iPhone, the latest iPhone, what's the current price, or the equivalent in the other platform. And you can see that it's a bunch of money for a device so fragile, if we want to talk like that. And sometimes people find way much easier to find a iPhone, the latest iPhone, rather than to give that same money of an iPhone to a ministry.
Right.
I mean, they
Yep.
can give $1, $5, $10. That's it. But
Right.
giving a 1,000 offering for this kind of ministry, they find it very, very difficult, very challenging. So, in that sense, I obviously, again, there are exceptions, and I have found people who are willing to give thousands of US dollars per month on a regular basis. So certainly they have, and they discover a reality in the kingdom of God that they saw one, and many times the Lord returns 3 times as much, 5 times as much, and even 10 times as much. And not only money. Obviously, we have to be very aware of that. There is not only money we are talking about, but health, other many things in life that are more important than money. But in returning, again, as a Guatemalan, sometimes, and I want to mention this, I have found people in Guatemala very poor, that they are like that widow in the Gospels, that she was giving everything that she had at that moment in time. I have found people here that they are the living version, the actual version of that passage in the Bible. They are willing to give everything they have in their own pocket for blessing someone else. And when you encounter that one person, you feel, sometimes I feel, I don't want to talk about Kathy, but I will talk about Carlos. I feel ashamed of myself sometimes when I find that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just reminds me of there's a favorite quote of mine from A.W. Tozer. He says, what comes into your mind when you think about God is the most important thing about you. And I feel like people that struggle to be generous
Mhm.
don't understand who God is. They have a view of God that is stingy, that they have to provide for themselves, that they
Mhm.
can't possibly give because they got to take care of number one. Like I got to take care of myself first. And so we had talked before about just that attitude of gratitude and understanding more about who God is. And so you have that freedom, but also the way I've tried to explain it to my kids is when you receive from God, when you know who he is and you receive his love and his generosity and his goodness for you, you can't help but give that out to others. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? And it
Mhm.
out of, it says we love because he first loved us. And so to have that understanding of who God is, I think is such an important piece. And I think when we see someone who's struggling to give, we can pretty much surmise what their view of God is because they don't trust him. So we were talking about this before, and learning how to the power of service and gratitude, because it does something for our heart. It does give us a mind shift, a mindset shift, and helps us to see the benefit. Jesus says we're this more blessed to give than receive, because as missionaries, when we go down there from America, people I talk to all the time, we think we're going to be like this great help and we're going to bless so many people with our presence and what we're going to do, and we come back so blessed, so much more blessed than we think we have given out, because it's such a rewarding paradigm. It's just it's not the way the world says it. The world says you've got to take care of number one. You've got to look out for yourself. You have to take care of yourself first. But that's not what God says. Just like He says, forgive your enemies, He also says take care of those and give of the first fruits back to me, and I will pour out to you a blessing that you can't keep. You can't even measure. And so it'll just be overflowing. And I think that people miss that part about God. And then they miss the opportunity to be part of that equation and receive so much more. So they hold on so tight to the little they have, realizing that if they just give it to God, He will multiply it more than they could possibly imagine.
I will, yes. You speak in terms of an American coming to Guatemala as a short-term missionary.
Yes.
I will speak in terms of a leader in the local church. When you are just a member or you attend eventually to a local church, you are very tempted to criticize everything and everyone.
Mm.
But when you are involved in service, you really realize how difficult it is. And if you do it in order to accomplish success or recognition from others, you will be frustrated. When you realize that it's for thank Him, love Him, everything for Him, because of everything He has done for you, you can find joy. You can find joy in the midst of many difficulties. When COVID was in 2020, one of the houses there in Monjas, they were, if you have been there, you know it's a closed compound. There is a wall, literally a wall. So the Guatemalan government, ordered us to be inside of our homes. But in the case of James Project, they needed some tias, in other words, some external women to come to help to give some rest to the in-house parents. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay. So one of those tias came sick with COVID. And as you remember, it was very contagious. And then was one kid, then other one, and suddenly we have a house with maybe 15 children plus a couple sick of COVID. Again, I'm not mentioning this for boasting myself or anything like that, but I received a phone call from Herbert saying, Carlos, we have this situation. We cannot find medicine, blah, blah, blah. We need help. And I said to my wife, we need to go. And my children were like, what are you talking about? Remember, this is deadly or very dangerous. Even my parents, Carlos, what are you thinking? You have to be responsible. Your children, ourselves, your life. But I said no. So we got medicine from another Christian orphanage, by the way. And they gave us a few days before. We received a gift, antibiotics and other kind of specialized medicine. And we were there. We traveled, and at the beginning they were in shock because the president of the board came from the city to visit us. Just the sick. We just visited the house with all the sick people.
Right.
And all of them were like normal. They were not in bed, like dying. Probably some of them expressed us that the very previous night they were with fever and they were very uncomfortable. And we were with my wife, and she asked me, Carlos, are we wearing masks or not? And I said, no, we cannot use masks because it's very unpersonal.
Mhm.
So let's pray, and God will take care of us.
Mhm.
And suddenly we were there, and a small girl approached my wife and hugged her.
Mm.
My wife said, Carlos, I could not return
No.
the hug. I mean, well, I have to give myself. And suddenly there was a boy with me, and blah. I shake hands with the parents. I watched them. We talk a little while, and we brought fruit. We brought something else, chips, something to make their lives easier on those days, plus the medicines. And God took care of us. We didn't get sick.
That's
We
amazing.
got sick somewhere else with other group, but I returned. And when you experience that kind of situation, you said either I was very lucky, but
Mhm.
God took care of me and my
Mhm.
wife.
Mhm.
So we are grateful that no children from James Project in that time died because of COVID, nor any adult or
Mhm.
the employees. Well, there were a couple of diseases, but it was spouses of staff.
Mhm.
So, but the thing is, I mean, returning to different aspects of our conversation now, people want to see reality. And Jesus was a shock to the religious uh, status quo of his time, because people saw a very different thing or expression in his life rather than the religious leadership of Israel at that time. And that carving or that desire to see a living thing. When I was a young single man in my church, I saw several couples of leaders at my time, 30 years ago. And I saw that they were genuine, apparently, and they love each other, and they were able to, they were willing to forgive each other and try to live in peace,
Mhm.
live happy. And I said to myself, and I have said that to my children and many young people, I desire that into my life. I
Mhm.
wanted to my marriage to be happy, even though the differences, even though the problems. I want to be a happy married man. I want to proudly use my wedding ring. I mean, usually women dream about wedding, honeymoon, first days at the new home. That's fine. And young married men dream with other things. But one of my main dreams was to use my wedding ring and wear it, let's say, proudly, in terms of I'm doing everything I can to be an example. And that's, I think I want to add this concept. Our young people need good examples.
Yes, they
When
do.
you, as American or Canadian, take a team, a group from your country to Monjas, to James Project, or to another similar project,
Mhm.
and you, as an adult, give an example. Me, Carlos Orellana, the president of the board, be at the grill cooking meat and
Mhm.
serving. I am doing that on purpose with the idea of giving a good example.
Mhm.
And we need to do that intentionally. Our young generation need good examples. I read I We try as much with my wife to read the Bible with my children.
Mhm.
Printed version, by the way, not electronic,
Right.
ink and paper. And they need, I'm not showing myself, but eventually early in the morning, my children saw my wife and myself reading the Bible in a regular basis. So they can blame me just between you and me, no PlayStation and no Nintendo. They can blame me on that. But
Mhm.
they cannot blame me on my father or my mother didn't give me the example of reading the Bible, although they were requiring me to read the Bible.
Mhm. Right.
So
Mhm.
I think that that there are girls from the project that became women,
Mhm.
and they are serving now into the project.
Yes.
There are many reasons for that, but I can assure you that one of those are either Mama Carol, Mama Joanne, and
Mhm.
all the Tiffany Bryan and all the team members. They see that strange people came from very far away to serve me, to give me an opportunity, to put a plate of meal in front of me 3 times, 4 times, and sometimes 5 times a day,
Yeah.
so I can develop and grow and become a good person. So, example, that's one thing this world is lacking. Many young people pay attention to influencers in social media, and you I mean, we don't have to talk about that, but you can see that that's not the path. That's not the way or the place to find a good influence into or for our children. We can be influencers in our family, local church, in a team coming from Canada, the States, or somewhere else. We can be an influence in our social media. I see many, many Christians in their social media boasting about going to this fancy restaurant, showing their brand new car, that they are in Paris, France, or that they are here and there, or in the Caribbean. I mean, and that's not inherently bad, but you as a Christian must have a different set of values and priorities.
Mhm.
So uh,
Yeah.
we can continue talking about this, but you can see
Mhm.
what I mean. I mean, we need good samples, and the teams are a good example
Mhm.
of that.
Yeah.
Seeing the tias in I mean, even though yes, we pay them obviously, but usually those women have children and grandchildren in their own homes, and they have to go and serve there as well. Many of them have husbands or parents that they must take care of them. So the money that we pay them is a blessing, not just for that woman, but for their sphere,
Mhm.
immediate sphere of people. So
Mhm.
there are many, many things. And example,
Mhm.
Jesus taught us by example.
Yes. And one of the beautiful things I always enjoy at the James Project is how every person that works there, from the house parents to the kitchen staff to the office staff, they are all excellent examples of Jesus's unconditional love for these kids. And you see how powerful that is for them. When we go down and a child arrives for the first time and they are very stressed, you see that, this is a new place for them. They don't know what to expect. It's scary, it's different, they have no idea if they're safe. Within a few days, their total demeanor is different because they have experienced that example of Jesus's unconditional love in these house parents that don't know them, but they are there to serve them, and they put up with their, behaviors. Not in a They don't put up with them. They lovingly discipline them through their behaviors, and just continue to show up for them. And it's the same thing with every part of the staff there, that unity, that they are all there to walk out the call that Jesus has on their lives to serve widows and children. It's one of my favorite things to witness when I go, because it's such a beautiful example of what it can look like. In fact, I brought a friend down with me on that last trip I went on, and her faith is it's a little shaky. And she was looking at, and we were talking about some Christians that are hypocrites, and it's very clear that they're hypocrites. And she brought up a particular situation, and I said, but look around here. This is what God has asked us to do. Live like this. Wouldn't Can you imagine what the world would be if we all live like this? And just this light bulb went on in her mind. She was like, oh yeah. Because I know nobody's perfect, but the hypocrisy is so less down there on the project, because everyone seems to be on the same team. And Jesus talks about that unity and how important it is that the body work together. It's not just the board president, it's not just the board members, it's not just Tiffany and Brian, it's not just the house parents. Everyone has a role to play, and they all do it for the glory of God. And to see that walked out is just, it's so inspiring to come back and realize it is possible. It is possible. We
I
don't have to live as hypocrites.
Yes, there are James projects. Certainly, it's an opportunity to live your Christianity
Mm-hmm.
at all levels.
Mm-hmm.
I am thinking of the women who make tortillas daily for all the people who live there. It's a hard work doing tortillas. I mean, it's a bunch of tortillas, but in our culture, it's a must for
Mm-hmm.
our daily meals. I am thinking of house mothers. I was with my wife some time ago, and we try to make a quick visit to all the homes.
Mm-hmm.
I am the president.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, try to be friendly with the children, try to be friendly with the house parents. But that day I saw a mother having in her arms a very, very small child, a very small boy. And this boy was sick,
Mm-hmm.
and he has mucus here. Is that the term?
Mucus. Yep, mucus.
Okay. And it, humanly speaking, is not a beautiful thing to see. And our world has taught us that I am not being paid enough for doing this kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
But that woman has taken care of that child with so much love and compassion as her natural mother, maybe even better. And we were talking, and at some point of our conversation between my wife, myself, and this mother, she was sharing with us the sadness that produces in them as house parents when
Mm-hmm.
one of these children must be get out of the project because a judge decision or a parents or a relative of the child. So they come to a point where they love like their own children, these children, even though sometimes they have to, obviously, some of these children behave like savage animals sometimes,
Right.
or crazy children. Sometimes they have to be disintoxicated or de-intoxicated
Mm-hmm.
from the crazy reality they live in their own homes. And when
Mm-hmm.
they come here to James Project, it's a let's say, so peaceful place that they are not used to have peace. So
Mm-hmm.
they are used to have conflict and arguments and fights and screaming and tears and everything. And suddenly there is a place where they can play in a healthy way with other children. They are not being hurt physically or verbally. And
Mm-hmm.
they like, wow, this is a shift in their paradigm as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful example of Christianity lived out there.
Yes.
So in your long service as to the James Project, um, what and as on the board, but also as the president, what are some of the most memorable moments for you where you've really seen God show up, or hard times that you've seen him be faithful?
We will
What
need we will need another hour for all those stories. But I want to mention probably probably three
Okay.
three three well, as you may know, I don't know, probably all of our viewers don't know this, but the project have acquired two additional properties in the last months.
Mhm.
It's less than a mile in distance between the current property and the new ones. Many I don't remember if we talk about this, but in our previous conversation, Kathy, but the owner of this land is a relative of mine, not a close one, but he's a relative. His last name is also Orellana. My
Mhm.
grandfather, the Orellana grandfather, was born in Monjas, by the way.
Wow, that's
And apparently, um, the grandfather of this man and my grandfather were cousins.
hmm
That's the relationship.
hmm
The thing is that we saw the need of buying land a few years ago. Tiffany and Brian shared with me that necessity. I mean, we needed more room. And by the way, I also admire that American way of thinking that we need to grow. We must grow. We cannot stay like this forever. So we personally, as a Guatemalan, I tend to be more conservative.
hmm
But sometimes no, sometimes, many times, I admire the boldness of Americans of trying to reach the most possible as soon as possible. But the thing is, for whatever reason, you may, and I say it respectfully, many Guatemalans there in Monjas who are selling land try to take advantage of the gringos because
hmm
they have money and they overprice their properties.
hmm
And we are not talking about a few bucks, but way thousand US dollars. So this relative of mine, this guy Orellana, he's also Christian, by the way. He has been a preacher also. He has a good story. Maybe some other time we will share it. But he was also originally, he and his family were Catholic, and he was saved somewhere in the 80s, 1980s. And the thing is, a sister from him sold us the original property. Now for whatever reason, he was trying to sell the property. And in those days, which this happens in the last months, we were very interested in another property closer to the current property. And Herbert tried to negotiate, but at almost the very last step of the process and negotiation, Herbert discovered that he doesn't have all the ownership papers
hmm
properly set up. And without that, because there are legal issues and much money involved into this, we
hmm
said no more. So in that day, I don't know if the same day or next day or same week, Herbert encountered this relative of mine, and they began a conversation. And in the conversation, he said, Herbert, I'm selling a part of land of my place. Are you
hmm
interested? And Herbert was like, wow. And by the way, Herbert and the leadership of James Project The staff they are spiritual people, and I want to honor them in mentioning that detail. But the thing, Herbert immediately saw that it was a very good opportunity, and he shared with Tiffany and Brian. Eventually, they called me. They negotiated the price, which, by the way, was way, way much better than the other price. A bigger place, cheap by the I don't know by the square foot, if we want to say like that. The square foot was cheaper in this other option than the previous one. You are asking me for those privileged times or occasions for being a president now, and it was we ended buying two pieces of land, but they are together, so we ended with a bigger place. So for me, it was a privilege, it was an honor, it was a blessing to go as the legal representative of the organization and signing the papers of ownership. That's the privilege of the president.
Right.
So this is modern history for the project, and I was there, and at some point in the papers it says Mr. Alfonso Orellana, the owner, selling this new piece, and this new place, quote unquote, on name, which measures and the blah blah blah, the rest of the mumbo jumbo legal stuff. And I say, well, unnamed piece of land, and eventually we talk with Tiffany and say Village of Hope, and Tiffany put the name, but I made a couple of suggestions to the name. The thing is, I was glad. I mean, I was witness of the first road of that piece of history into this ministry. I mean, being part of that, being aware, that the ministry is growing, that a dream came true. We are going to be able to serve a different kind of population, with different kind of customers, if you want to call it like that. And the faithfulness, I mean, project, because of the generosity of a donor, have the money already. Everything went smoothly, no problems. All the papers, all the money, everything went smoothly. So I had to go twice to Monjas to sign two different papers for the ministry. So I felt very honored that at some point in the future my name is going to be there in the papers. Obviously, I didn't do anything, but returning to the original, the beginning of this conversation, Kathy, someone has to be the president. The organization has to be everything perfect, so the papers went smoothly. If, let's say, I did something wrong, let's say we didn't pay a tax and our tax ID is blocked, we could not purchase the land because of that. So in that sense is the importance of the president, the board, legal representation, working together with the team, the staff, Tiffany and Brian, the donors outside of Guatemala, the banks, even the banks here. I mean, it's a bunch of people involved in this process in order to bless not only now Guatemalan boys and girls, but women in stress, families that are suffering. So that was a great blessing. And another thing that I can mention, I want to honor Mama Carol. A few days ago, we had an election day in which we elected the new president. And by the way, maybe one of our viewers may think, well, if he's doing a great job and he likes it and blah, 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 why he cannot continue? Well, the bylaws of the association doesn't allow re-election. So that's the reason I will still be a member of the board, but I cannot be or function as president. We have a new president in August. So there was election, and suddenly they have a surprise for me, and Mama Carol gave a small speech about me and my wife, and I am very, very grateful. I didn't know about it, and I am thankful that my wife, especially my wife, heard about those nice words that Mama Carol said about myself. So I am thankful for that. There are other things. I mean, while speaking to you now, I can see the faces of one of two guys in one of these meetings we have at the end of the year with a tortilla and a piece of carne, a piece of beef, just still warms from the grill, and closing his eyes, like really enjoying the food. So being a part of that day, it brings joy to my heart. So that's it. There are other stories, but let's keep those for now.
Okay. So it sounds like you have been walking with Jesus faithfully for a really long time.
Yes.
How have you seen God use your service to others to help you reflect more of Jesus to the world around you?
There was a pastor in my local church. Maybe it was the year 2000, 2001, maybe somewhere around there. His name is Carlos Mora. I want to honor him. Maybe someone who knows him will watch this one day. But the thing is, the first day he arrived to a local church, he gave a message and explained it. There is a passage in the Gospels that talk about people watching Jesus doing miracles. There were the disciples, there was the sick person, and there was Jesus. And he was explaining, making the idea of a soccer game, and there are people watching the game. There are the actual players of the two teams plus the referee in the middle. So he was asking us to which crowd we want to belong, either in the stadium watching the game, either in the game actually playing the game, sweating the T-shirt of my team, or being in the dugout. Is that the term? Even being in the dugout, that was the other crowd. People called to play, but were not playing at the same time. So it caught my attention, and now that we have been talking this day with you about all these things in my life, I remember again my father saying, Carlos, I want you to become a problem solver. I want you to become that kind of key person into a situation. So not for boasting, but rather actually solving, being helpful. So it changed my life, surely, because I have seen the necessity in other people. When we live our lives for ourselves, we just live by the motto of me, myself, and I. My necessities, my priorities, my fears, my desires, my. Oh, yes, it's a long list of my things. So when you serve, and when we are focused, when we are centered in ourselves, we tend always to complain, because into our wisdom, into our knowledge, into our understanding of life, we don't have what we deserve. We don't have enough of what we desire. But when you are serving, you can see that there are other people in the world that are way much worse than you, in conditions that you cannot live. And you said, wake up. It's like a wake up call. It's like you waking up from apparently from a dream, but actually it's a nightmare of selfishness. So at the beginning of the 90s, I was invited for the first time to go with another young man, a young promise from my church. Both of us were promises at that time. And we were invited to visit another of our churches about, let's say, 150 miles from Guatemala City. And it was a weekend. So that day, the people there, we were going to preach with the youth group of that church. And I felt useless. I felt without enough knowledge of the word of God. I felt powerless because the Bible talks to me about a powerful God and that his children are going to demonstrate that power into this world. But I felt powerless. I felt that I needed to learn more. I needed to grow into my spiritual life. So that was the beginning, and many stories later, I can see that service allows you to mature. Again, Dennis Peacock, he has written a book called "Doing Business God's Way." I will try to send you a copy.
Okay.
I am publicly committing myself to send you a copy
Okay.
of that book with your promise of reading it.
Yes, I will read
So,
it.
but the thing is, he has a statement. You grow and you mature when you take care of people and things. And when you are a house father or house mother, and the Lord blesses your life with children, you have two options. Or you mature and grow, or you become an irresponsible father or mother, a problematic person. And in that way of thinking, James Project and many other houses or orphanages like us take care of children with immature parents. We are solving someone else's responsibilities because they are called to take care of their own. So service makes you mature. My youngest daughter, her name is Marianne. She's about to be graduated from university as a nutritionist. I think the equivalent in the States is a bachelor's degree. She has studied there for 5 years. The last 2 years of her studies in university have been practical. She was in one of the biggest national hospitals here, and she stayed in clinics in 2 different places in Guatemala, countryside clinics, where you can see everything, all the menu of human necessities, everything there. So I can tell you that when my daughter was graduated from high school, entered university, was kind of the same girl. But when she visited the countryside, when she saw firsthand the necessity of so many families, individuals, little boys, little girls, abused women, etc., 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 she matured. She's not a perfect young woman, obviously, but she has matured way too much in the sense of being aware that her universe, her life is not around herself, but rather she must be part of something bigger. That thing bigger is the kingdom of God. And service allow us to be introduced in the kingdom of God. You cannot, you really ask good questions, Kev. You can only be a member of the kingdom of God while servicing. You cannot be an adornment. You cannot be something there gaining dust in the kingdom of God. You must be a part, and the kingdom of God is a kingdom of service. Jesus came to give us the greatest service of all, salvation, and to show us something great, a God of love. So in that sense, if we want to be a good Christian, you must service your community, your family, children, whatever. I mean, there are so many options. If you change your paradigm, if you change your worldview, you can see that daily God gives you a lot of opportunities to serve, and to make a difference everywhere.
And a lot of opportunities to then receive the joy of being
Yes,
part of that and to
to be
see.
fruitful, the
Right.
joy of being fruitful.
One of the first books that I read as in the Christian realm was "It's Not About Me" by Max Lucado. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I have heard the name, although not read that book. But by the title, I can imagine.
Yes, it was a very good introduction for me into the walking out my Christian life, because it's very much what we're talking about, just living selflessly rather than selfishly. And it's just counter to the world. But in Romans we read, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be renewed, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind," which requires us to read his word, like we keep saying, right? And then do it, like James says. Don't just hear it and walk away and forget what you look like. You've got to actually walk it out. So I am so grateful for your example of walking it out for so many people, because not only is your name going to show up in that paperwork years from now when the ministry is still going and things look different and there's other land and whatever God sees fit to provide, your example is going to carry on. Your example to the staff, to the kids, to your own family. It's your example is your legacy. And I'm grateful that you've taken the time to share it with us today, because I think it's such um, a great reminder of what life can look like. Yes, it's more challenging sometimes, but the reward, the return on investment is so much greater than living for ourselves. It's a very empty life when it's all about us, you know? So
I want to conclude with this, thinking in your kind words. Thank you very much. About example, about all of us, even, I mean, certainly you and all our viewers, myself, all of us are always busy. We there are many things in our home, business, family, everywhere, local church. But one of the things I would like to show and teach my kids is that even though you can be successful in business, in your life, you have to have time to serve the widow, the orphan, the needy, as much as you can. I mean, all of us can give the excuse, I am busy. All of us. I
yep.
am not capable, I am not able, whatever, I don't have the knowledge. But we, despite of all the obstacles, we at least try to. And in that process, we will change. The Lord will change us. And all of us have a desire of belonging. We have the need of belonging to someone or something. And
Right.
this project, but mainly the kingdom of God, but later James Project, allow us to participate in this, which is bigger than us, to belong to this project. In other words. So, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I am very grateful for this effort of yours, and hopefully our viewers will be something that I have said today or you have said will touch them and encourage them to go the extra mile.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. And I think that you just real quick, you reminded me of a passage I read in John 6 recently where Jesus is about to feed the 5,000, but he asks his disciples first, where can we get food? And his disciples, and it says after that, it says, even though he knew what he was going to do.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
his disciples were like, we don't have, like, even all the money that we could muster couldn't buy enough food for these people. And then I think it's Andrew or maybe Peter that says, but wait, this little guy has some food, 5 loaves and 2 fish or whatever. And it just reminded me that when we give our not enough to God, we can't solve one person, one donor can't solve the problems for all the Guatemalan children,
Mhm.
that are wrestling with
Mhm.
horrible situations. But when we give what we see as our not enough, because that's a good excuse not to do something, right? Well, I don't have enough to make any difference. It'll be barely be a drop in the hat or whatever the excuse is, or I don't have enough time to really impact anything. So why would I give even a little bit of time? It's not going to make that much of a difference. But when we die to ourselves and we give our not enough over
Mhm.
to Jesus, he multiplies it beyond what we can imagine. And I love that example. It struck me lately that we think we have not enough. And it's true, we don't. But when we hold on to that not enough, it's like the parable of the talents. It doesn't multiply with us. Like we're just holding on tight so we don't lose that one little thing. But if we sow it into the kingdom of God and we give back and we give even our little bit, God can multiply it in ways that we can't imagine. So,
I want to add this. Dennis Peacock says when in this context Moses was giving an excuse, he was too
mhm.
busy or he was not
Yeah,
able.
yep.
He
Lots of
asked
excuses.
he asked him, "What do you have in your hand?"
Mhm. Mhm.
A dead piece of wood, a
Yep.
stick.
Mhm.
Okay, with that stick, I'm going to liberate my people.
Yep.
So I will leave you with this question.
Mm.
What do you have in your hands
Yeah.
that God can use?
Mm. That's a good question. I hope our listeners and our viewers will really ponder that and even consider checking out the James Project or any other organization that
I
is
mean,
helping and doing God's work.
what do you have in your hands?
Mhm. Wow.
Okay. So Kathy, thank you very much for your patience and your time. It has been a great blessing.
Thank you so much. I will see you soon, hopefully.
Hopefully.
All right. Bye-bye.